Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really comprehensive framework that completely transforms how we think about navigating the internet. The source material we're looking at asks you to adopt a very specific persona, the digital guardian. And it argues that surviving, and honestly thriving, in the modern online landscape goes way beyond just having good password hygiene. Instead, it lays out this unified strategy for managing your entire digital life. It literally treats your personal reputation and your technical security as two sides of the exact same coin. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Digital Guardian Blueprint, then move into protecting your online reputation, spotting dangerous websites, securing public network connections, and finally, your digital decision framework. Okay, Section 1, the Digital Guardian Blueprint, your dual shields of protection. So the materials we're unpacking today serve as a total guide for maintaining an online presence that's both secure and respectable. This blueprint takes a super fascinating approach because it forces us to look at online protection as a multifaceted endeavor. Becoming a digital guardian means understanding the deeply symbiotic relationship between your character, so your long-term reputation, and your private data, which is your technical security. The big takeaway here is that one breach almost always leads to another. Think about it. If your technical data gets compromised, hackers can just hijack your accounts to completely ruin your reputation. And on the flip side, if your reputation takes a hit through poor online behavior, you might actually inadvertently expose yourself to targeted social engineering attacks. You really can't have one shield without the other in today's hyper-connected world. Our blueprint is going to help unpack exactly how to make highly informed decisions to protect both of these critical fronts at the exact same time. Moving on to Section 2, protecting your online reputation, the permanent record. Right out of the gate, we have to address a core theme here, which is honestly the terrifying permanence of the internet. The text draws this really stark contrast between the temporary real world and the permanent record. In the physical world, a spoken word or a fleeting moment just fades quickly into memory. But the digital realm, it operates on a fundamentally different architecture entirely. Every single photo, comment, and post contributes to this immutable data trail. The source uses heavy-hitting examples like college admissions and career background checks to illustrate just how heavily this permanent record weighs on your future opportunities. And the analysis makes a great point. These digital artifacts aren't just sitting idle somewhere. They are continuously indexed, archived, and often scraped by third parties. Your daily online actions are literally actively writing a permanent history book. You're constructing a public profile that persists way, way long after you've logged off. Because that digital record is permanent, the blueprint strongly addresses the behavioral dynamics of online communities, and specifically, it highlights cyberbullying. The source defines this simply as using technology to harass or harm others, but it actually dives much deeper into the sociology of the behavior. It frames cyberbullying not just as isolated incidents, but as a systemic, active threat that thrives on the amplification effects of social media algorithms. The anonymity and the physical distance provided by screens often lead to the psychological phenomenon called the online disinhibition effect. Basically, individuals act with a level of cruelty they would absolutely never display in person. The text argues that this behavior leaves a devastating, long-lasting psychological impact on the victims, while at the exact same time leaving a permanent stain on the digital character of the perpetrator. It's a dual tragedy that degrades the entire online ecosystem. So, how do we counter that systemic threat? Well, the blueprint introduces the concept of digital empathy as a structural defense mechanism, and this goes way beyond just being nice. It's presented as a conscious, active strategy to maintain a healthy digital environment. The framework stresses that treating others respectfully online actually acts as a buffer against toxicity. Crucially, the source argues that passive observation is essentially complicity in the digital age. It mandates reporting harassment incidents because, let's face it, platforms rely heavily on user moderation to train their algorithms to recognize and suppress abuse. By choosing not to engage with negativity and actively refusing to spread harmful content, you are breaking the chain of viral toxicity. Digital empathy is positioned here not just as a moral imperative, but as a critical, highly actionable tactic to secure the whole social fabric of the internet. Let's jump to Section 3, spotting dangerous websites, the technical minefield. All right, having explored how the blueprint protects the character aspect of our digital lives, we are now pivoting to equipping that second shield, defending our data against invisible technical threats. The source material points out a really fascinating vulnerability in human behavior. Basically, user vigilance often fails right at the top of the screen. The text emphasizes training ourselves to identify HTTPS and the little padlock icon in the URL bar to verify an encrypted connection. But why does this actually matter? Well, the framework explains that HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. It uses transport layer security, or TLS, to encrypt the communication between your browser and the website. Without this encryption, meaning if that padlock is missing, any data you enter, from your passwords to your credit card numbers, is transmitted in plain text. That means it can literally be intercepted by anyone monitoring the network. But here's the catch. Even with encryption, malicious actors still set highly effective traps. The source details specific red flags you absolutely need to run from. Starting with typo squatting. This is the use of misspelled URLs, like google.com, but with a 0 instead of an O. The text outlines how these spoofed sites meticulously mirror legitimate designs just to trick you into handing over your credentials. On top of that, the presence of excessive pop-ups or unexpected redirects is a huge clear indicator of a compromised host or embedded malware. The framework also points out a critical failure point when it comes to digital literacy, and that's regarding payment gateways. It notes the total absurdity of common phishing scams. I mean, if a site claiming to be a major tech giant suddenly demands you resolve a customer service issue via a direct wire bank transfer or cryptocurrency, yeah, that is a glaring indicator of fraud. Recognizing these patterns is absolutely the bedrock of digital street smarts. Which brings us to Section 4, Securing Public Network Connections, the Wi-Fi Trap. This dives into a super pervasive vulnerability in our daily routines. Picture this. You're sitting at a coffee shop, you just bought a latte, and you connect to the free public Wi-Fi. We've all done it. But the source material warns that this everyday scenario is highly vulnerable to eavesdropping and what cybersecurity pros call man-in-the-middle attacks. The framework breaks down how this actually works. Because public networks often lock robust encryption protocols, a malicious actor sitting in that exact same coffee shop can use packet-sniffing software to intercept the data traveling between your device and the Wi-Fi router. Essentially, they position themselves invisibly right in the middle of your digital conversation. The text advises entirely avoiding these open networks for any sensitive activities, because the convenience, honestly, just does not outweigh the risk of exposing your banking details or your primary account passwords. Now, for those situations where connecting to an untrusted network is just unavoidable, the blueprint introduces the Virtual Private Network, or VPN. The text elevates the VPN from just being an optional privacy add-on to an absolute mandatory tool in modern digital security. Rather than just calling it armor, the source actually explains the mechanics behind it. A VPN routes your internet connection through a private server run by the VPN provider, which creates a secure, encrypted tunnel for your data. So even if a hacker is successfully pulling off a man-in-the-middle attack on your coffee shop Wi-Fi, all they're going to intercept is an unreadable stream of scrambled data. The VPN essentially masks your IP address and secures your payload. It ensures that your private information remains completely shielded, regardless of how inherently flawed the underlying network might be. And finally, Section 5, your digital decision framework, the Guardian's checklist. Okay, so we can now synthesize everything the text has covered into a fast, highly actionable process. The source provides this really concrete 3-step protocol designed as an everyday decision-making framework. Step 1 demands immediate verification. Before entering any data anywhere, confirm the presence of HTTPS and that little padlock. If it's missing, the protocol dictates you just abandon the site entirely. Step 2 requires behavioral analysis. You need to actively scan for those red flags we talked about, like typo squatting or totally strange payment requests. And finally, Step 3 acts as the ultimate safety net, specifically engineered for younger internet users. When in doubt, ask a trusted adult. By establishing this simple, repeatable checklist, the blueprint really aims to build muscle memory. It ensures that users are systematically protecting both their technical boundaries and their online environment before executing a single digital action. As we wrap up this explainer, the text leaves us with a genuinely striking question. If the internet is forever, what story is your digital footprint telling right now? The blueprint successfully argues that online safety isn't just about installing antivirus software or avoiding some bad links. It's a continuous, holistic practice. Your technical security measures absolutely safeguard your personal data, but it's your digital empathy and your daily interactions that ultimately define your character. The two are inextricably linked. The legacy you build online requires constant, intentional management of both, ensuring that the permanent record you leave behind is a story of technical resilience and profound personal integrity.